You are about to hear some words that have not been said in quite a while. Welcome to Parts of the Unknown presents the Wrestler Faith audio podcast. That's right, my name is Joseph Mills, and today on the Wrestler of Faith audio podcast, we are going back to the beginning of it all. Once upon a time when the podcasting network, once known as Wrestler of Faith Media, now known as Transcended Media, started blistering through the airwaves. We use wrestling themes and wrestling terminology to talk about some of the harder moments in living within the day, and it has been quite a while since that I have done that. This is a little bit different than Never Break Kayfabe. Never Break Kayfabe is a podcast that we do. We talk about the current events of sports entertainment and professional wrestling, but we are going back to our roots. We are back to us using wrestling narrative, wrestling terminology, and dealing with the real world. The word, dear friends and neighbors, that I, Joseph Mills, would like to share with you today is the word swerve. Within the world of professional wrestling, a swerve is what happens, and I'm pretty sure that individuals that do different parts of televised writing, script taking, a swerve is a moment that a story looks like it's leading very heavily into one direction, and then out of nowhere, it shifts hard to the opposite direction. Normally within the world of professional wrestling, it's when a good guy becomes a villain. Sometimes there have been babyface swerves, and that's when the villains have become the good guys. The swerve that I want to process with you today is a swerve that recently happened at an area school board meeting that had a... I don't know if I could call him a baby face or a heel. They were sort of a tweener, just kind of lost in the shuffle sort of individual that has definitely gone heel very recently. I want to process this terminology with you, and as this being the Wrestler Faith audio podcast, I want to talk about the many swerves that take place in our lives. You know, within our living being, there are many things that we bank on for our care. There's individuals that we see who should be the heroes, and within their moments of being the heroes, they become the ones who defend the outcasts. They are the ones that stay on the narrative of their task, and they do what their responsibility is no matter what. The heroes are the ones that they not only speak for the disenfranchised, but also, you know, they're the ones that keep the narrative going in the solid direction, maybe to the extent that sometimes that they may be in disagreement with other heroes, but the end result of the interaction is that the mission continues, the mission remains fruitful, and everyone gets to the goal collectively that they're heading to. You have listened recently to other parts of Unknown as I have just processed some frustrations that I have with our area school board. You heard me talk about, without naming the school board, without naming the person, a member of the school board that I have been quite frustrated with. Well, tonight I'm going to talk about another, because we're dealing with this concept of a swerve, and swerves happen quite frequently, especially in the world of politics, so that individuals that are hired and elected to be caregivers of certain specific needs, sometimes they commit swerves so that they can protect themselves. Now, I'm not saying at all, and I'm not alluding at all any selfish motives in what I'm about to talk about, because honestly, sometimes within a swerve, we've definitely seen multiple times within the world of wrestling that the heroes get stuck in these situations, and sometimes they have no choice but to be the villains because of the hardship that they have been stuck in. As I'm sitting here thinking about this, I think about the relationship of Chris Adams and the Von Erichs. I mean, he was always a good guy until he developed his relationship with Gino Hernandez. And then out of nowhere, because of that relationship, of that loyalty, he shifts away from the good guys and he ends out as this narrative villain. Once upon a time, there was a wrestling promotion that was on ESPN called the Global Wrestling Federation. And the Global Wrestling Federation once had this storyline. The GWF is what took over the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, after Fritz Von Erich sold out to Jerry Jarrett, after Jerry Jarrett decided to move his focus completely to Memphis. The Global Wrestling Federation swooped in. Bonnie Blackstone, Joe Pedicito were there. I think his name was Chris Cruz, was the announcer, but I think he was also sort of the on-screen director, general manager, if you will, in some way. I'm sure someone can email me at dwopodcasting@gmail.com and remind me who the main interviewer was. I do remember that whoever it was went on and had a major role in WCW. But this interviewer, this general manager, there was this group called the Cartel that was there, that was silently in the backstage trying to take over the promotion, and they had a secret ally that no one really knew who it was. And then the good guys kind of processed that this ally was more than likely the general manager because of some dirt that they pulled out on him. And it kind of put him in a hard spot because he was actually trying to work as a mold to figure out who the real manager and overseer of this cartel was so that he could save his wrestling promotion. So that becomes this other narrative of somebody stuck in their responsibilities and being seen as the villain. I think about people that have been good guys and bad guys throughout their careers, but they never stop being who they really were. I mean, if you want to talk about swerves and their heels and villains, one group that really stands in my mind is the Fabulous Freebirds. They have at times been the baby faces in Georgia. They were the villains in Texas. They were the villains in WCW. They were the villains in Mid-South. At times they became the heroes because of who they were fighting with and who they were fighting against. But the Freebirds never changed who they were. They never changed how they fight. They never changed their direction. So sometimes they became the villains, but they were still locked in this mindset of doing the right thing for their greater cause, for their greater good. So I'm working through this thing with this conundrum of this very dear friend who was visibly, and when I say a dear friend, I don't know them personally. It's just colloquialism of a person that I have seen really just stuck in a hard spot. And they were stuck in a hard spot and ended up committing a swerve because they were in some ways stuck within their allegiances, and then they were stuck within their priorities and their leadership, things that they promised they would do, things that they would promise that they would not do. And then that within this hard choice, it really did boil down to them that they became the one that had to make the decision of a new leadership structure for the school board. And the vote that they made it was shared in such a way that even they didn't agree with it, but it was the only choice that they could make to keep things going in the direction that they felt like things should go. So this is the narrative that we all kind of wrestle with. We all have these moments that we get torn between one place or another. But I'll share with you, and I don't really connect this as a swerve moment, but there are times that we create swerve moments because we find ourselves stuck in split loyalties. We find ourselves stuck in split priorities. And I mean, even that evening, there was a place that I could go out and do good and create a place of comfort and peace. And I had the conundrum of going and being a voice of peace at this school board meeting that was a little bit stressful and a little bit hard to stomach. And within that split loyalty, I feel like I let a lot of people down because I wasn't at the place doing good, so that I could go out and within my perspective, my linear narrative, to go out and do what was good against what's bad. So we all kind of get in these moments of split loyalties, and to do one thing that's important, sometimes we feel like that we let other people down, and it creates a swerve within those people that may actually be let down because of the decision. But in the end, hopefully that we stay loyal to what that we are doing. You know, I bring up this decision that this dear friend made, and she apologized to an individual also on the board who was hurt by the decision. There was emotional hurt. There was hurt created through this. And there was this moment of apology that was being shared, and this individual's response to her apology is kind of fit in the lines of what I just shared. His words were, this is just my translation of it. It's not a direct quote. I paraphrase is the word I'm looking for. He said for her not to be sorry if she did exactly what she was called to do, and if she felt that she made the right decision for everything that was in line to be done, then there is no sorry. Sometimes we get stuck in swerves, and this is a very wrestling narrative. The one that commits the serve immediately becomes the victim. And I remember vividly when Barry Windham turned against Dusty Rhodes and Barry Windham joined the Four Horsemen. And it was this moment that, Barry Windham caused this harm towards Dusty Rhodes, but it was Barry Windham in his moment of being this new villain and this new villainous faction that he started laying out the quest of sympathy, because he did something that went against Dusty Rhodes, but trying not to feel bad about what he did so that he could gain sympathy for going on a path that he turned on a mentor that had been there for his entire life. I think about that, every time that a standard, long-standing wrestling tag teams break up. And there are these swerve moments of when individuals do something that strongly hurts the other person, but it's the villain that committed the actions that starts digging to receive the sympathy because of what they did to hurt the other person. I remember this. If you guys know me personally, I'm a big Ricky Morton guy. I'm a big Rock and Roll Express guy. And when the Rock and Roll Express broke up in the late 80s and early 90s, and Ricky Morton went off and became a villain with the York Foundation, and he had some matches against Robert Gibson. And within all of these preps to the matches, Ricky Morton kept spooning out how that he was the the victim in this situation, and how he finally had to break free because it was his relationship with Robert Gibson that caused him to miss single title runs, and how his career could have been much bigger and much grander if it wasn't for Robert Gibson. The same thing happened in the WWE with the Rockers when Shawn Michaels turned on Marty Jannetty, and it was that whole same narrative of he was held down, he was held back, and he needed to break free so that he could have this grander new experience. But it was all laced within the woe is me, I'm the victim narrative of that. And that's something that we find a lot in our swerves that happen in the real world. And I saw it very vividly in this swerve that happened at the school board meeting. There was this whole buildup. I mean, there was this huge buildup that this one person shared with the other and saying, you're a great person, you deserve this, you're the only person that has never hurt anybody else on this, and then immediately hurt them to make a decision that visibly was better for her. Again, we see that in so many different ways. We definitely see it politically. We see politicians that make these grandiose proclamations of things that they're going to do for certain people, and actions and activities that they're going to do for specific subgroups of individuals. And then as soon as they have office, it becomes this whole grand journey of how do I keep this position forevermore, and at many times negating the people that they made promises to. That is the hard thing. But the reality of it all is, in some ways, we all begin to. In some ways, we all become the victims of what has been happening. Unless that we're the ones with power. And it's definitely those that have been disenfranchised that suffer from this the most. If you look at the spiritual narrative of Jesus Christ, I mean, everyone that existed within the rule of Rome, the Pharisees, the political leaders, everybody did everything that they possibly could to swerve someone else that appeared to have some kind of strength, some kind of following, some kind of responsibility, so that they could keep what they had. We constantly see examples of how the Pharisees are trying to swerve Christ one way or another so that they can keep the religious power that they have had, and they don't lose what they have worked very hard to get, because this new voice is creating this new narrative that is setting those that they have put aside free to become leaders themselves. And it is this constant fighting and narrative of swerve happening in one form or another. So I wanted to just hop on here. It has been a while since I processed something in the narrative of the Wrestler Faith podcast. And this was quite fun for me. As you can tell, just like from last week's Parts of Unknown, there is still some frustration that I have built up over some swerves that are happening. And what really hurts within this all is the kids that hurt the most because this has happened. It's the kids that hurt the most because of what they see. Just as much as watching the tears fall from the eyes of the kids that saw Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff turn on Hulk Hogan, or the kids, the tears that fell from the kids' eyes when they saw Ron Garvin turn on Dusty Rhodes. There are people that hurt, that really hurt when these swerves take place. And one of the things that we see in all levels of political interaction is somebody is going to get hurt because someone is trying to maintain a narrative of what they see as their quest of power. And when that someone gets more power, someone else has to suffer through it. And that is just still bothering me. right now. So thank you for letting me live in my fictitious world of professional wrestling for a moment. Thank you for pondering with me the swerves that we all deal with within our lives. And if you can see a swerve coming, be the ally that steps up and begins to help the ones that are going to suffer from the power play. Thank you for listening to me today. That was the Wrestler of Faith audio podcast. My name is Joseph Mills. Everyone have a great week.